Hello and welcome to today's Gyan Darshan presentation for BIT students. Today's topics will be on the basics of the internet. So, I will be talking about the internet. The two issues which I will be talking about in this context is how the internet was evolved and some of the basic concepts related to the internet, and at the end we will try to share announce some important information. So, please stay with us. Now, let me talk about now the first how the internet was evolved, and then I will be talking about some of the basic concepts like what is the basic philosophy, how does the internet work, what are the basic services internet provides, and so on. So, this is what we will talk about. The two steps in which I am going to present my topic will be, first will be the evolution of the internet, how internet has evolved, and the second will be some of the concept like what is a TCP, what is a IP, what is the FTP, what is telnet, what is bulletin service, what is World Wide Web, and so on. So, the topic is related to CSI 04, that is computing solution. In this course we are talking about numbers of the tools which are used for the informations processing, and internet is one such tool which is used only today for the information processing and so on. So, I will be talking today not from the information processing, but simply what is the internet and how it was evolved, and I request all students, BIT students, to participate in the group discussion on this topic, like how internet can be used for the information processing. This topic is more precisely for the outcome 2 of CSI 04. But anyway, let me first present and then we will try to share some informations with you at the end. Now, so basically how the internet was evolved, that is something which we have to start. So, look at this slide now, the genesis of the internet, I mean how internet was involved. It was a research project, what we call them the ARPA, or what we call them, the project was funded by the ARPA, Advanced Research Project Agency. This was a research, this is a military project which was funded by Department of Defense, USA, government of USA. The second and the objective of the project was to develop a solution to interconnect LANs and WANs that became known as internetworks or the internet. So, basically the genesis how the internet has started, it was the project, military project, what we call the ARPA project. It was a military project. Department of Defense had many LANs and WANs and many isolated computers. And prior to the internet working of all these computers and LANs and WANs, all these computers and the LANs work in a separate, or basically as a separate island now, and the idea was to interconnect all of them so that information can flow seamlessly from one computer to another computer residing into different LANs or different part of the country. These were the basic projects now. And now what was the outcome of the project? The outcome of the project was what we call today, we know that TCP/IP, design of the TCP/IP software. This was the output now. Now, today you know that TCP/IP is a protocol or is a software which basically used for the internet. So, whenever you surf the net, whenever you send any data through the internet, whenever you send email, or whenever you do file transferring, or when you want to do some remote login, whatever activities you do through internet, it is basically it is done through TCP/IP. So, outcome of this project was the TCP/IP. Now, here what we have is that in TCP/IP we have two basic protocols, and what we will call them, one is IP and second is the TCP. The IP stands for Internet Protocol, whereas the TCP stands for Transmissions Control Protocol. The IP software, and both are the two different softwares, and they are sitting at two different layers now, and later on we will talk about the two architectural approaches to designing of a computer network. One is what we will call them TCP/IP model, and the second is called what we call them OSI model, which you will be learning more detail in CSI 13. Now, here is the IP is the basic purpose of the IP software is to move information. So, when you send your email or when you send any data, it is the IP software or IP protocol which basically moves your data from one machine to another machine. No more intelligence is built into it, simply its job is to move a data from one to another. Now, and on the top you have another protocol, what we call them TCP software, which job is to provide reliability. We will talk about TCP and IP a little bit more detail, but more discussions will be in what we call them in CSI 30. In fact, we have produced number of video series on this topic, and request all the students before joining the classes, you must view them now. There is sometimes there is a confusion at the study center or the TLCs or our regional labs that there is separate group discussions from the theoretical counseling. What we have in BIT and ADIT program are only group discussions, no theoretical counseling. So, theoretical counseling and the group discussions are basically merged. So, once we understand what is the TCP and what is IP, let us talk about the what are other trends which took place, or what are the other new development which took place around this time, which provided the growth of the internet. The another the what like you try to understand the internet from inceptions was basically followed the open standards. Now, right. So, basically what happened was that whole TCP IP software were available on the line. I mean, it was for everyone, it was anybody can access those softwares now. So, right from inceptions, internet aspired to be the open standard technology. So, all its document, like all the complete documentations related to TCP IP design was available online. So, anybody can download these informations, and so basically idea was that any vendor who wants to connect their product to the internet, they must know how to do it. So, all these standards were known to everyone. That was the basically magic behind expansion of the internet today. So, today the TCP is basically hide all the intricacies of the hardwares. People who are working in the internet, they do not know with what type of configurations they are talking to, with what type of machines or operating systems they are downloading the information. TCP basically hides all those hardwares and other low level details from this one. The another important point which I want to note behind the growth of the internet was what we call them it was the military, US military took a lots of interest in the expansion of this program. The 1982, I mean the project started sometime late 60s. Now we are talking about 1982, that the internet prototype was developed and the TCP technology has been tested very well, and only from 82 onwards the US military started to use TCP IP in its network. That is another important things which you have to understand behind the growth of the internet. The another important development which took place, right now we are talking about sketching the historical background of the internet. The another important milestone which took place during that time was what we call the release of Unix operating system. You know that there are many operating system you have. In first trimesters you have learned already 2 or 3 operating system. Let us say Windows NT is one operating system, Windows 95 another operating system, Windows 2000 another operating system, but that time it was Unix operating system. So, Unix operating system was released at the same time, and it was designed by the Bell Laboratory, what they have now Lucent technology and so on. Now, again the Unix operating system followed the same trend as the internet. They are again followed the open standards now. The Unix source code, you know that when you write a program, that is this becomes a source code now. Now, source code of a Unix operating system was given free of to all various other universities, so that they can work on this source code and add some more utilities to it now. And so, that was so basically many universities were interested in Unix operating system, they got the free Unix source code and they added more values to this one now. And one university which did lots of research in this area, what called University of California at Berkeley, and they developed a similar product, what they call of course they did lots of design into this one, and they are known as this product is known as BSD and so BSD Unix and so on. Now, what we have is the point which I am trying to explain to you is that the step which was done, I mean the major step which happened after the Unix came into the market, it was the TCP IP software bundled with Unix operating system. So, now you purchase the Unix operating system, TCP IP is a part of the whole system. They do not need to purchase a separate TCP IP, and that is the trend today. Most of the operating system today, server side operating system, they support all the Unix, the TCP IP programming. So, Unix was the first operating system which started shipping the TCP IP along with its product and so on. So, that became very popular now. So, people have started using TCP IP for sending the informations among the different machines and through Unix operating system. So, the TCP IP became the important component of the Unix operating system. The another major development after the Unix, the TCP/IP was bundled with Unix operating system, that there was two important thing. One was what we call them, the Internet Advisory Board was formed. Look at this slide. Now, please, Internet Advisory, what we call them IAB, it was formed to guide the development of the internet. All the research and development which was taking place around the internet was controlled by this board, Internet Activities Board they called. And one of the, and they formed separate parts, many subgroups, many subtask group, and one of the important subtask group, what they called it, Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, was the primary subgroup which was responsible for all the technical matters now. So now the another development was the IAB was formed, and it formed many other subgroup, and one of the important subgroup was what we call them IETF. Now the after that the growth, I think I will call them, this was the major step was done by the NSF. NSF is National Science Foundations, what we have in Academy of Science in India. Now the NSF decided that if USA wants to become competitive in the world, then all its research laboratory, all its science engineering institutions or researchers, they have to be linked with the network now. So NSF started heavy funding on the expansion of this internet, and as a result, you see that that time, I think during that time, perhaps in 1983, that time the growth of the internet or the number of computers was which were part of the internet was just around less than 1000. In fact, you just read as a 562, not 1562, 562, and later on it became 1.2 million computers. That happened because of the NSF started, and after that many industries started joining in and started expanding this internet. So that is the basically the how the internet started as a project, and then Unix bundling of TCP/IP with Unix, the military took interest, various advisory board were set up, and finally the NSF started funding the various research project for the growth of the internet. Now this is my first part of the presentations now, that how the internet was evolved. Now we start with the what is the inside the internet, that is something which you have to understand. Let me remind you that today we are talking about internet as a tool, and you have to discuss this internet, how it can be used as an information processing tool. For you, just your guidance, like you can discuss in your group discussion, like what is the role of a browser, what is the role of a search engine, what is the role of various other FTP protocol, email and so on, how they are basically used to help the information processing. This is a topic you have to discuss in your group discussions now. I am simply talking about what is the internet now. Now let us go into, once we have understood the growth of the internet, let us try to understand what is inside the internet now, what is basic technology inside it. Now one of the important concept which you have to understand is what we call them packet switching technology. Now internet uses packet switching as a basic communications technology. It permits multiple computers to share a single communications channel with minimum delay, because it divides each communications into a small packets. Now that is the basic technology behind Unix, behind the internet now. Now let me explain you these terms now. Now what exactly we say packet switching now. Like for example, when you talk to someone on telephone, the basic technology which we use is what we will call them circuit switching technology. But in internet we cannot use this circuit switching technology. The reason being that we have thousands and millions of computers are trying to share the same communications channel. I will explain you the terms sharing a communication channel to understand what is the packet switching and how the packet switching allows to share a communication channel much more efficiently. By communication channel means I could use a satellite as a communications channel. I can use a coaxial cable, I can use a twisted pair, all can be used as a communications channel for sharing the data. For example, if when you have a cable TV at home, so basic communication channel which carry the TV signal from all the broadcaster is a coaxial cable now. Now single cable is shared among large number of the users, right. So that is basically idea. Now what we have, the basic idea behind packet switching is that instead of sending a large informations at one go, you try to try to break your packet or informations into a smaller chunks, what we call them the packets, so that there should be minimum delay. If you have a big file, then it might take a lots of delay, but if you send the smaller files or smaller data or smaller packets, then many packets from different users can be accommodated on the same channel by giving different time slices or giving different giving turns to each user and so on. In fact, what is happening in the, so this technique for sharing is what we'll call them, sometimes we call them multiplexing now, but the technology is called what we call them packet switching technology. So packet switching is used whenever in the computer network, where in telephone or telecommunication we say it is circuit switching now. So the advantage of the packet switching is that even if the computers have a different of different speeds, they all can be accommodated through packet switching, and the delay could be minimum and so on. On the same time, the number of packets from the different user can go, and later on at the receiver side they can be assembled accordingly now. So that is the basic ideas. For example, when you send your email, if your email is very big file, then again this will not go as your file will go as a one unit, but it will be broken into the smaller chunks, and they call it them packet switching now. So this is the basic. So the basic technology on which the internet has been designed is called packet switching. So TCP/IP supports packet switching. So to understand how does internet work, you have to understand how the TCP/IP works. So now what we have, so in TCP/IP, what we call them the two components as we discussed. In fact, there are many other protocols are there, not only protocol, but all the protocols are known as a TCP/IP suite, because TCP/IP contains n number of protocols now. So now, but most prominent are what we call them TCP/IP. Let's talk about what does IP do. Now, what does it defines how a packet must be formed. Now, I told you that you have to send your data in terms of smaller packets. It is job of IP protocol to decide what should be the size of your packet, what should be the formatting of your packet, right? What should be the first field, what should be the second field, what should be the third field, and so on. And how a router should form a packet to the destination. So router is a device. We'll talk about a router a little bit later. A router is a machine, it's a very intelligent machine which connects many LANs and WANs and so on. Now, when we say the internet or the internet is basically comprises of number of LANs and WANs, and each LAN is connected to another LAN or is connected to WAN through the router now. So it is job of a router to route the packet. They understand the IP protocol. So the packet format is understood by the router, and then the router decide where the packet has to be routed on the next destination. So it defines how a packet must be formed, size of the packet, fields of the packet, meaning of the field of each packet, and so on. Defines the format of the internet packet, which are called IP datagrams. So sometimes what we call them IP data, sometimes we call them packet and datagram. Packet and datagram both are same thing now. So they call it IP datagram. Defines the most important thing which you try to understand about the IP protocol is called addressing schemes. They have because you know that you must understand one basic component, that in internet each machine which is a part of the internet must have a unique IP address. Now, what should be the what should be the addressing mechanism, right? Each machine must have an address, and we have millions and millions of machines are connected into the internet. Each machine must have a unique IP address. What should be the size of a IP address? That is again defined by the IP, and they have many different classes. CSI 13 will discuss about, or any other networking classes at later stage we will discuss now. So they define number of classes, class A, class B, class C, and class D, and they define different addressing mechanism. With this addressing mechanism, one can find out where in what network your computer is residing, and so on. So again the IP, apart from deciding the format of a packet and some other details, it also decide the addressing mechanism of your packet. What should be, how many bits should be reserved for this one. You know that lots of changes are taking place in the internet, in the IP. Earlier we have a TCP/IP version 4, now we are moving to TCP/IP version 6, because the address range what TCP/IP had decided is not sufficient enough to accommodate all the machines now. So in parallel things are moving towards the TCP/IP version 6 now. Now what does TCP do now? The TCP IP provides a way to transfer a packet from its source to destinations. IP simply routes the packet, but does not handle problems like datagram loss or delivery out of order. It provides a reliable way to send data across the internet. What exactly we are talking about? Suppose that I have to transfer a file and the file contains, let us say, 20 packets. Now it is not job of the IP to know that whether all the 20 packets have been delivered or not. It simply whatever packets comes to its router to the entry of the router, it simply delivers to this one. It does not keep on counting whether all 20 packets of the same file of a particular file has been delivered or not. It is job of the TCP IP protocol to identify or to see that whether all the 20 packets have reached or not. If the packet has to be retransmitted, IP does not know which packet has to be retransmitted. Only on the request coming from the TCP, the IP will retransmit. On its own, it does not retransmit any packet. So if loss of the packet or if the packet has come out of order, all these issues are basically handled by the TCP. So TCP is basically adds more value to IP. TCP sitting on the top of the IP. So the reliability issues are basically dealt with by TCP, where basic communication is done by the IP protocol. Now another important concept which we have to understand in context of understanding of the internet is what is the DNS. You know that I was talking about that each machine must have a unique IP address, otherwise the packet but not or information will not be transferred from your machine to another machine now. So what we call them, but to remember the numeric address which comes into 4 octets is very difficult to remember. So what they call it, each machine also has what we call them domain name. So for example, we have ignu.ac.in. This is a domain name of all the computers which we have in IGNOU campus now. So you must have a domain name, but finally when you construct a packet, when you design your packet, it must have the unique IP address, actual numeric address now. So it is job of the certain system, there is a called software which translate from the DNS to actual IP address. Now what is, let me just read once again what is DNS. It is a software that translates the domain name into the IP address. It works like a directory system. So DNS has a software translate, is a translation mechanism. One side you give the domain name, another side you will find out which is equivalent IP address. Now let us have more discussions about the DNS, something which you come across all the time. Now, so you can ask the question now, what is the use of DNS when we have then the transmission is going on between the 2 remote computers to communicate. Let me answer this question now. To communicate with a remote computer, an applications program asks a local domain name server. You must have a local domain server for the remote computers IP address now. If the local domain name server does not know the answer, it connects a remote domain server automatically. Now earlier, let me explain you what we have. You see, try to understand that earlier when after some time you will see the many internet gateway will be set up by Indian company. Now earlier we have the VSN was the only gateway which used to route the data from India to any other country now. So if I am sending certain information or email to some other machine, so the IP software which is loaded on your machine, they will ask the VSNL gateway to translate, to find out the IP address of that machine. If so, VSNL must have a DNS server. It must be installed, like VNS have a FT server, they must have the Telnet server, they must have some any other server. Similarly, the VSNL gateway must be able to translate the domain name system of that machine into the IP address. If the VSNL does not have the IP address of that machine into its directly, then it will ask some other machine, that is the gateway somewhere in the USA, that will translate what is the actual IP value. So that is the basically. So DNS plays a very important role when you are sending information from one machine to another machine. The reason being is that each your packet must have the unique IP address, right? And so to get the address from your DNS into actually numeric address, it is done by the DNS server. It must be located either onto the local DNS server, or it must be able to find out from the remote DNS server. Now, how is domain name defined? Now, we have given you name like ignou.ac.in. Now, what exactly the meaning is? Just briefly we will talk about. The computer's name consists of multiple alphabetic, so ignou.ac.in, that is what we are referring to. The computer's name consists of multiple alphabetic strings separated by periods. The computer's primary name comes first, and a suffix that designates the organizations that owns a computer comes at the last. Additional strings can occur if the organizations has added supplementary names to identify group. So, basically first will be the name of the machine, and the last will be the name of the organization which basically owns the computer, and in between you have many other strings which are many subgroups or sub departments in the university or in any organizations. That way the domain names are defined. And now, the another important thing which you have to understand this. So, what we are just talking about, the how does internet work, or what are the basic concept related to internet. What I explained to you so far, that the TCP/IP is the main program sitting inside the internet which works on the packet switching technology. And then also we discussed that each machine must have some unique IP address. This address is defined into the numeric form, but to remember the numeric form is difficult. So, the system also gives you the domain names now, but if you have sending the information, it always goes into a packet, and the packet must contain the numeric value. So, you must have a domain name server which will translate from your domain name into actual IP address. Now, what I have referred to you earlier is that the router is a device. Now, in internet scenario we have many different type of devices. We talk about in computer network, we have a modem, we have a bridge, we have a switches, we have a hubs and so on. So, when you want to set up a local area network, you have earlier was a hub, now we are moving to more intelligent device which connects all those computers, or what we call them switches and so on. Now, this is again the network devices. Modem is another device which comes sitting with the computers itself. Like today we are talking about Ethernet card. So, that is the right. So, Ethernet card is basically, and then basically it is used for the connecting your machine to another machine and so on. So, we have a modem is one such device, we have a hubs is another such device, we have a switches is another such devices, we have a router is another such devices, gateway is another such devices. You have to understand all this. The router is once again is used to connect your machine with the LAN, or with one LAN to another WAN, or one WAN to another WAN and so on. So, intelligent device which understands only not the lower level protocol, we understands only the higher level protocol from the, let us say you can understand the network layer protocol or the TCP protocols, and its basically job is to route the packet from one machine or one LAN to another LAN through another WAN and so on. So, now what is a router? Once again, the interconnecting computers are called a router. A router are the building block of the internet. So, what are the building block? A router is one of them. LANs, MANs, WANs, they all are the building block of the internet. A router accommodates multiple types of network. This is job of the network. There are many proprietary LANs are there, or there are many other different type of LANs are there. By different type of LANs mean they are running different type of protocols. There are different type of topology they have. For example, we have Ethernet. I was referring to Ethernet. So, we have Ethernet LAN. Some can have a token LAN, token rings type of topology or different. So, we have different type of LAN and running different type of protocol. Some are proprietary protocol, and the router is basically deals with all. So, we have a router which handle all types of all types of networks now, and able to connect them. So, a router can interconnect WANs and LANs. So, that is so. Now, in summary, the internet, the many building blocks, and the router is one of them. Now, at the end, let's talk about some of the services what we provide to the internet. The many services are provided by the internet, and some of the important services which we provide the internet are called electronic mail, bulletin board service, the remote login, browsing the World Wide Web, and file transfer. The TCP/IP protocol basically handles all these protocols now. So all your browsers, you know that as a part of internet you have to load your browser. Now browser are have all types of, they handle different type, they handle FTP protocol, they handle telnet protocol, they handle HTTP protocols, they handle telnet and so on, they handle different type of network news bulletin boards and so on, and also of course the electronic mail. In fact, internet started with the electronic mail. Earlier people used to do only electronic mail, they used to communicate through another computer only through the electronic mail. But now we have made most popular product is what we will call them, which for which internet become very popular, is what we will call them World Wide Web. We will define what is the World Wide Web at the end. So let us talk about what is the electronic mail now, what type of services we are getting, and for each type of services there is a standard, like FTP is a standard, telnet is a standard, HTTP is a standard. Here also we have Usenet and network news is a standard. There is for electronic mail also there is a standard. They all are sitting on the top of it. For network management there is a standard and so on. Let us talk about one such, what is electronic mail and what type of service, because today we are trying to understand internet as a information processing tool. Now what is in electronic mail, and again to support electronic mail you must have a software for it. Like for example, what electronic mail does, you might not, you know how does what is electronic mail, but what many other services they provide which you might not have explored yet. Now it sends a single message to many recipients, same message I can send to many users now, or to all. Sometimes this is what we call them broadcast, I can send same data to all the users in the network, or I can send a particular mail to part of users, now I mean group of users. So we have what we call them broadcasting, we say is a multicasting. So I can send a electronic mail to particular group of users, I can send a mail to all the users connected to the net, send a message that include text, voice. Earlier the email contain only textual message, now with the advancement the email can be attached, can have the voice, video and graphic, they all are treated as a file now. You can send a video file, you can send a voice file, you can send a graphics file, and all can be sent through what we will call them through email itself. Send a message to user on a network outside the internet, that is also possible, that if not necessarily they are a part of the internet, if somebody is outside the domain of the internet that unconnected, that email can be sent to that one also. This is, and so all the software to standards are there. Simple mail transfer protocol SMTP is one such a standard, will deal with all these features now. Now each individual, now how it really works, we will go into little bit, not very detailed, that what is, how it really works now. Each individual who participate in electronic mail exchange has a mailbox defined in the unique address now. Now any user can send mail across the internet to another user's mailbox if they know the mailbox addresses now. So basically when you are sending the mail you must know the address. So these addresses are basically mailbox address which is a part of your machine's configurations now. So when you send, it goes to your mailbox and then you open it. Only if the owner can examine the content. So basically the idea to send the email to the mailbox of a user is that only the owner for which the mail has been delivered can see the mail, nobody else now. So basically what we are talking about in electronic mail, we have a mailbox concept. So the user will send the data to the mailbox of another user and so on. If a computer connected to internet, so basically a computer connected to the internet must have application software or a program, a standard that users can send or receive electronic mail. So you must have this software, your browser must have the email software, and all the browsers support all the software which we have listed earlier as a part of services now. Email software allows a user to compose and send a message or to read a message that have arrived. So basically all those features which we have listed are a part of any email software, and the standard for sending, again today we are talking about the standards now. So there is a standard for this one, and all the standards basically support all these services. Let us go to the another important service for which the network has become, internet has become quite popular, what we call them the bulletin board service now. Now what we do in the bulletin board service now, that electronic bulletin board service allows a person to participate in multiple discussions group. I can post a topic and many people can join this group now, where each group focuses on a specific topic. So that is the basic idea of the bulletin board service. Now, what do you have in the bulletin board service now? The bulletin board service allows an individual to select one or more discussions group of the interest. There are various interest group have been formed on particular topic. Now you can, and they will post a topic, and you basically join on particular day and particular time at particular window, and you can have a discussions forum on this topic. Select one or more discussion group of interest. Periodically check to determine whether new items have appeared in a discussion and if they have read some or all of them. So, basically the idea of the bulletin board, that publish certain news, and so that many can share the news and discuss among themselves. So, there are many interest group have been formed the internet. Somebody can join those interest group and can have a discussion, periodic discussions, or the quite frequent discussion on those topics now. So, this is another very important service which is quite popular in the internet, is what we will call them bulletin board service. What else it does? It posts a note to the discussion group for others to read, posts a note that responds to an item someone else has written. So, all these features are supported into this one. The another important find which has been quite popular now, what we will call them FTP, the file transfer. Now, I can, if I have to transfer a big file, I can use a file transfer mechanism, what we will call them file transfer protocol. This is standard, FTP is a standard now. FTP permits a user. Now, what FTP does is, it permits a user to transfer a copy of a data file across the internet from one computer to another. If I want to transfer a big file uninterrupted, I can use this mechanism now. When using FTP, a user establishes communications with a remote computer. So, it works in a client server environment now. When using FTP, a user establishes communications with a remote computer and obtains authorizations by sending a login and password. The user can list the files on a remote computers, request a copy of a particular file, and send a copy of the local file. So, this is basically idea. The purpose of the file transfer call is to transfer a file from one machine to another machine. This is basically used when you have transferred very long file, you do not want to get it interrupted in between, you can use a file transfer. This is another important services internet provides now. The another one, which is what we call them, all the services what we have discussed is basically what we will call them asynchronous, or what we will call them not very dynamic type, but the telnet, this service is used for dynamic services now, more interactive. Now, what this does is, and most of the companies today who is working on a software project, which is working on export project, which has taken the project from some other multinational company, they basically work on the telnet. The remote, the machines is located outside the country, and people directly log into that machine and run their program there. Now, what they have is the remote login service provides dynamic interactions between a user at one location and a computer at another. It allows a user to run programs on a remote computer. So, this is basically idea. So, basically if I want to have interactivity among the machines, if I want to run some program somewhere else, I can use the remote login facility, or what we will call them telnet facility now. The another, I think that was the most popular, internet became popular, all those services used of course came after the email services, but the internet became more popular because of the worldwide service now. But right, so let us talk about what is the worldwide, because we always use this word quite often now. The worldwide web has become the most widely used information service on the internet, one of the most important services. One can think of the World Wide Web as a large set of hypermedia documents stored on computers throughout the internet. Basically, when we say the worldwide, means that I have a large document scattered all around the different machines. So, when you switch over, when you start with one machine, one document, if you want to go to another document which is linked with this one, you click this one, you will reach to another document that is lying on another machine, and so on. So, this is called, and earlier this was mainly of the textual, now the various multimedia component have been hypermedia, means what we will call them, that the text with audio, video, all components have been combined together, and that is called the World Wide Web. And the protocol which is used for web surfing is what we will call them HTTP protocol. So, we are talking about at the end we will talk about different architectural models, but the protocol for the surfing, the browsing the World Wide Web is called the HTTP. So whenever I want to find out any data, I have to use the HTTP protocol. They all are basically called applications layer protocols. The browser is a computer program. Now what browser? You must have, when you are connecting to the internet, your machine must be connected to the this one. Now browser is a computer program used to access the World Wide Web. Browsers offers point and click interface that allows a user to access information using a mouse. I click the mouse, then I will get to another informations. After the browser displays a particular multimedia document, the user double clicks on one of the embedded menu items to request the browser to obtain and display a new document. So this is what, so basically let me just quickly summarize now what we have discussed. The internet, as a part of the internet, we just gave you the evolution of the internet and also explain various important concepts related to how does internet works now. Now what is the internet? Basically we explained to you that is basically global information infrastructure which contains number of LANs and WANs, and each one is connected through a device what we call them router. But apart from router, we have many other devices in the network, but the most prominent technology in the internet is called, or the software is called, the TCP/IP software. And all the software which we have listed right now, FTP, Telnet, remote login, email, network management software, and many other new services are being added from time to time. They all are designed around the TCP/IP. Whatever new system you add to the internet, TCP/IP takes control. As a user, or as a user, you are not basically concerned. The TCP is the job of the TCP/IP, which deals with all the hardware and other details and so on. So TCP/IP has been ported to different type of configurations now. Today, now when the ATM came, now the TCP/IP have been ported to the ATM type of environment. So there is a software called TCP/IP over ATM and so on. And internet became popular because of the World Wide Web. And explained you what is the World Wide Web, which is a basically collection of large set of multimedia document. This is what we have discussed now. I think we have 2-3 students now. I think I will refer to them if you have any questions related to, and then we'll discuss something else now. Yes, please, you have some questions now.
With the help of TCP/IP model, we can work this type of work we can.
So basically, you see right now I will just explain to you. The question is that, see right now, first is that the two types of architectural model for designing the computer network. One is called OSI model, and second is called TCP/IP model. But both are used today. In fact, TCP/IP model has become most popular product for designing the computer network now. Now anything which you are doing today, right now you are working with the internet. Right now you are working with the internet. Now basic protocol is the TCP/IP. Without TCP/IP you cannot do anything. Like internet is being used for information sharing, for the distributed databases, for I gave you the example of we have a Telnet. Now Telnet is one service that your machine is here and some other machine is somewhere else. You want to log on to another machine from your machine and run your program there. So again, most of the multinational projects companies have a project all around the world now, and they are using internet for a distribution vehicle. So all their code, data, information is being shared through the internet. Again, the TCP/IP is a protocol. People are working with electronic commerce today, doing the transactions through the internet. Again, this is a TCP/IP protocol. Now internet moment to hook to the internet, it is the TCP/IP protocol which takes care of all everything. Yes, next questions you have, please. Any other questions now? So basically right now I will just let me just explain you the another important terms now. This right now as I told earlier that the two architectural model has been proposed today. The most, if you read any literature, any book on the internet, they are designed either around the OSI model or they are designed around the TCP/IP model. But the basic purpose remains, both are OSI model is more of the theoretical type of model. They are not actual product as a OSI model, where the TCP/IP is actual model. Most of the operating system today are bundled around the TCP/IP protocol. The TCP/IP is a part of their libraries, right? So, and the basic the guidelines for designing the TCP/IP model based network or the OSI or based model is that you design a network in terms of number of layers now, and for each layer there is a standard have been defined. For each layer the functionality have been designed and so on. For example, both in TCP/IP model and the IP model or the OSI model, on the top you have the applications layer for which a standard have already defined. Now FTP, Telnet, SMTP, network management protocol, Telnet protocol, FTP protocol, network news protocol, all the standards have been already defined now, right. So, if anybody wants to, and the functionality of the applications layer is already defined. So, anybody can design a protocol related to it, but all have to be designed around the TCP/IP. As a second trimester BIT student, you have to understand is that how these protocols, how these email and how other protocols which we listed earlier have to be used as a information processing tool. Now, like for example, HTTP protocol is another important protocol which browser uses. So, whenever you surf the net, you are using only HTTP standards now. Anybody can design. Today we have a Netscape browser, now we have a Microsoft browsers and so on, and all the browsers are basically use the HTTP protocol, and all these browsers are designed around the TCP/IP protocol. That is the basic understanding you have to understand. And today we have thousands and millions of billions of pages being uploaded every day on the internet, which is used for the information sharing now. So, this is about the applications layer protocol. Either you follow a TCP/IP model or you follow the OSI model. The applications layer one has to think of it, and these are the few standards you have to follow. Now, another important layer in both the TCP/IP model or in this one is that at least you have to understand that how the internet work, how information is being shared. That is something you have to understand as a part of this course. You must understand that if you want to send an email, how it is being routed through, where from your machine, where does it go to, from that server, where does it go to, how the domain names are resolved, how the packet is formed. These are the issues you have to understand. So, the most important thing which you have to understand is about the role of the transport layer protocol. The second important layer in the which is common. I am talking about only the common layer protocol, that is called transport layer protocol, which is both in the OSI model and the TCP/IP model. Now, the basic job of the transport layer is basically to support more on the what we will call them reliability issues now, or really when you write a TCP/IP program, basically it deals with the transport layer mechanism now. Client server program is being dealt up only at the transport layer, right. So, the job of the transport layer is to see that the packets have reached correctly. Suppose that I told you, I gave you one small example, that if I am sending 20 packets, the job of the network layer protocol, which is for which IP is a standard, is to simply this one send all, but it does not recall that whether all the 20 packets have been sent or not, simply passes this packet. It is job of this one is the transport layer to see that all the packets or 20 packets have reached in the order at the destination. If not, then it have to retransmit the packets. So, that is what we will call, again there is a standard for the transport layer. The TCP is one such a standard, UDP another standard now, and there might be many more standards now. The network layer is another important layer between both OSI model and the TCP/IP model. The basic job of the network layer, and IP is the standards for it, and there are many other protocols are there are many standards are there for the this layer also. In CSI 13 you might be studying about that one. Even some exposure might have been given to you in CSI 01 when we discussed about the computer platform, which contain one component on the networking also, but more detail we will be having here in the CSI 13 or CSI 09 later on. Now, here what we have, the IP is the basically what we will call them the basic functionality which we deal with at this layer is to how to route a packet now, how to find the optimal route for a packet. Sometimes what happens that is that sometimes there is a congestions in the network now. It is job of the IP to find out the route which is not congested, and there are various different type of algorithms have been designed to find out the route. The another important thing which is common between two is what we will call them. So, these three are most important now. Then it comes the lower layer, like we have a data link layer, we have a MAC layer, then we have a physical layer and so on. So, this way the whole thing. What other topic which we have to understand, which again we will not talking about, is that we have the other 2-3 concepts are very much important for you to understand, which I was talking about the packet switching now. Now, here what happens is the how the sharing of the channel is done, that is something you have to understand. Like various techniques are existing today for sharing the communications channel, and what we will call them, sometimes we call the static way, a static approach for sharing the communication channel, and sometimes we call the dynamic approach for sharing the channel now. Here in computers we are talking about more on the dynamic side now. Like for example, let us say you talk about what exactly it is, like for example, like take example of the Ethernet now, or take example of some protocol which supports the Ethernet type of technology like CSMA/CD protocol. They follow dynamic approach. I mean, you don't, I mean anybody can access to channel anytime they want, but for before this one you have to sense whether the channel is free or not. That's the only thing. Not that in this time you have to share your data, or this time you have to, this time slot you have to send the data. It's called dynamic now. If you follow the token ring, again moment you hold a token, anybody can acquire a token, but unless you acquire a token you cannot send the data, but anybody one can attempt to acquire a token. Once you have a token you can send your data. So, this is what we call dynamic approach for sharing the communications channel now. But the type of technique which we use for sharing the communications channel, now that is sharing is very much important. The cost becomes very less. The data can reach, many users can be joined together, right. So, now the another approach for sharing a communication channel is what I am trying to explain you is the how does internet work. That is concept which you have to understand, and there are many smaller concepts you have to understand first before you try to understand how the TCP/IP works. So, the sharing of communication channel I was referring to, it can be done dynamically, can be done statically. I gave you examples of a dynamic way of sharing the communication channel. Where it comes to the static, we have a what we call them FDM, TDM, frequency division multiplexing is one way to share a communication channel. Now, time division multiplexing is another way of sharing a communication channel now. So, when you access your TV of cable TV, it is a FDM now. Each television user is given TV broadcaster is given certain frequency range, like from this one to this one you have to broadcast the communication this one, and for broadcasting a color TV transmissions, color TV broadcast, you require at least 6 to 8 megahertz. So, that is the range you are talking about. So, that is pre-assigned that if DD1 has to broadcast this one, then this has to be given this range, this frequency range. If Gyan Darshan has to broadcast the communication channel, then this one has to be given, and so on. So, that is the basic idea we are talking about in the whole computer network scenario. Now, more details about the TCP, IP and so on you can read about in CSI 13. Here simply you have to understand how the TCP IP works. Now, again coming back to the main topic now, see let me announce now that we have from today itself the all TLC or all the regional labs working as a TLC must start conducting the theory classes now. Otherwise we will not able to meet the deadline, and we have planned many things for this trimester. First thing what we are doing is that we have revamped the BIT home page. Now, I request all of you to visit the BIT home page quite regularly now. So, every weekly, so we have divided the home page into 2 or 3 subsections. There will be daily announcements, day-to-day announcement. For example, today's announcement will be in that section, that today we have a Gyan Darshan. So, we have a daily announcement will be coming if we have on the daily announcement sections. Then we have a weekly updates. Every week we will try to update some new informations on the BIT home page, which will contain many informations. One most important informations will be that we are every week we will be bringing some good article which students can read and enhance their knowledge, which is not part of the subject. For example, is some article written by this school faculty or somebody else. Like for example, this week we have brought one article on the global trends in the e-learning. Now next time some other articles will be coming up. So this is the new article, will be every week we are trying to bring some new articles. We also try to bring some quizzes, solution or guidance, not complete solution but some guidance will try to give to you regarding the previous term examinations papers. Like for example, we have asked certain theoretical questions or certain objective questions. We can give some guidance, clues, that what should have been the best solution or what you have to read extra to attempt this type of questions. Some other quizzes might be brought into it. Also we are trying to have weekly schedules now. For example, a student have to do day-to-day activities. Now this was introduced with the old batch, but later on it was interrupted. We want to bring it now, renew this whole thing. So every week some activities which you have to do as a part of your course, like CSI 04 or CSI 13, again this is going to be brought. So the BIT home page is quite going to be, it has been already changed, and please refer to the site all the time for sending the information. The another information which I want to send is that from this trimester, all the assignments of the current trimester, all the assignment will be coming on time. Within this week, all the assignment of the second trimester, assignment of the fourth trimester, assignment of the fifth trimester, assignment of the eighth trimester will be displayed this week itself, and all the assignment have to submitted within this week, including the Viva voce has to be conducted, so that when students enter into the next trimester, the results of the previous assignments results must be published on the net. This is about the BIT students. Now the another important information is that the HND result is being done on a very war footing now. If a student's marks are not reflected, assignment marks are not reflected, they are requested to contact their TLC coordinator or the regional lab coordinator to forward their marks to the School of Computer Science. Please don't send any mail regarding this. Whatever you have sent, we have updated. The last informations which I want to share with you, that we have a weekly newsletter now, that we have been doing it for last 2-3 months now. This newsletter will give you all the all the activities of the week which is related to the BIT program. This newsletter is already on the net, and this newsletter also is being sent to some students on the request. Please read the newsletter, so that all you must be up to date with whatever is happening. This is all we had. Thank you very much.